Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. I'm Michelle from the Bead Gallery and I'm here today to show you how to, play with wire. I guess that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make some head pins or find out some ways to make these very cute Calvin Orr lampwork beads into wearable pendants. So I have not rehearsed any of this. I'm just going to be making it up as I go. So let's just get started. I love wire. And some of the tools that I'm going to be using today are, I would like a wrap and tap plier too. Maybe all three sizes. I'm going to use a Lindstrom cutter. This cuts up to 16 gauge wire flush, which I will be working with. I think I might also be using some 18 gauge, but I'll still need my flush cutter. Then I'm going to be using some just basic wire wrap tools, flat nose plier, chain nose plier, and maybe this round nose. I kind of prefer something a little bit bigger if I'm going to be working with heavier gauge wire. So sometimes the Lindstrom jaws are a little bit too small, so I'm going to give myself options and also have my wrap and tap pliers handy in the 6-step, 3-step small, and 3-step big. I don't know if I'm going to use them all today, but it's good to have them around instead of me trying to go look for them when I want them. Okay, and then of course you always need your bench block and some hammers. I have my basic baby chasing hammer. It's one of my favorite ones. It's the Frets Maker number 401. 401 is the baby chasing hammer. I love it for getting into small spaces. It does flatten the metal really nicely, gives it a little bit of texture. I also have a larger hammer here by Frets number 72. No, number 17. Frets number 17. I do have some texturing hammers here. Well, maybe not. I have some texturing hammers. I don't think I'm going to use those today because when you make head pins or pendants, not a lot of wire shows that you can actually like texture. Not really. So I'm not going to bother texturing it too much. I do have a nylon hammer though as well, just in case I would like to harden my wire without flattening it. Okay, so got a lot of things going on over here. I'm going to scooch on over to the up close. And then we'll get started. I think I have to move this with me too. Okay, so I think I'll warm up by just making a flat paddle head pin to start with, and then if time permits, then I'll get fancier as we go. Okay. Okay, so this is 16 gauge soft wire. Feels suspiciously a little bit springy, but that's okay. I think I can deal with it. All right, so I'm going to cut a little bit of wire just to work with. I don't usually like to cut down the wire exactly to the length I need because every time you cut the wire, you waste some. So it's better to work with a longer than you need workable length. Plus you can be more creative with the wire if you have a longer piece than you actually need. So you can cut, anywhere from like a foot or so. Sometimes I'll use a couple feet. Okay. So I'm going to flush cut my wire like this. And then I'm just going to hammer it out the end of the wire to form a paddle. Okay, I want to widen the wires to the extent that my beads, whatever I put on there, won't fall off. So I'm going to go in with my number 17 here. It's a little bit larger hammer. I'm going to actually straighten the wire just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go in with number 17 and just hammer the tip of the wire. Just focus on the very end like this, and then you can Give it a lot of gas at the very end and lighten up as you move upward along the wire away from the end. So when I'm hammering my paddle, I just want to kind of keep in mind that I want my wire to be straight, this paddle to be straight. If it starts to curve in one direction or the other, that means you are hitting it unevenly on both sides. So you want to keep it pretty even so your wire spreads evenly and it doesn't start curving. Okay. You can actually hammer the wire quite a bit, almost double the original diameter. If you see here, it got quite a lot wider, and that's what you want, okay? And again, lighten up as you work your way away from the end of the wire so that it's not wide along the whole length. You want it to kind of taper up into the regular round wire size, okay? Okay, I think that's kind of wide enough. If you want to add a little bit of texture, you can just by turning the hammer over and hitting it with the ball side. And that you don't have to hit it very hard at all. Just very light. Okay, that dapped texture will give you some nice reflection. So it'll be a little shinier. And again, you want to move it all around the wire, just so it doesn't start to curve one way or the other because you're hitting it too much on one side. Okay. At this point, I'm going to need a file to file the end of my wire. I usually like to use something a little bit on the smaller side. Just to get that little sharp points off. Okay. This one. Okay, so we're just gonna go with a regular, like a little small file here. Gets like a 2-cut. And we just want to get the sharp points off and give it a nice rounded edge like a fingernail, like my thumbnail here. Okay. And remember now that your file only cuts on the push, so you don't want to sand it back and forth like this. Okay, only cuts on the push. So I'm going from front to back on my wire paddle. I find it easier to take the corners off when I go in this direction than to try to go in the direction of the curve like that. That's really hard to stay on track. So I usually just go front to back, and I go at a somewhat of a 45-degree angle, and I go over like this. Okay, and that gives you kind of a smoother, rounded edge. And I'm not pushing very hard, but again, this file is on the finer side, so it doesn't take off too much metal. If you work with a coarser file and you push harder, you're going to take off a lot more metal more quickly. So I like to go kind of slow. And then you also don't get these big drag marks in your wire if you use fine files like this one. Okay, and then your fingers are your best test to make sure that it's not sharp or pokey. Especially if you can't see really good. Because it's kind of small. Okay, so. Alright, so that feels pretty good. It's nice and smooth. So we're going to see what fits now on this paddle. If you have only one kind of bead, then you're obviously going to want to be testing it every so often so that it's the width that you want. But I have a bunch of beads here to mess around with, so we'll just see how far down this one goes. That one's cool. Okay, that works. And then it's going to have this much space, this much wire, about a ½ inch sticking out past the paddle. But that's cool. That's cool. That is a nice design kind of look to it. Okay. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is if you're going to use, even if you use glass, but more so if you use gemstones and you string your head pin, these on your head pins that are like this, you want to use something that doesn't cleave very easily, like crack easily. Because if you just put, like, say, a gemstone and you shove it way down there like this, and then you exert more pressure against the paddle, you can actually split your beads in half. I've done it before, and that is not a good feeling. So it's good to put something like metal, like this, or something that's a little more durable. Yeah, I would say stick a metal spacer at the bottom of your paddle, like this, just to keep from cleaving your beads, like cracking them in half, because when it flares out like this and you put pressure against it, it's almost like a blade inside your bead. Okay, so you want something that doesn't split easily, which would be like a metal spacer. Okay, and it provides a good platform for your bead. So even if your bead hole is kind of big, it won't scoot farther down than you want on your paddle. So there we go. You can string something like this. And then we're going to do, I'll put a cap on here because it's cute. Let me move my bench block out of the way. Oh, that's kind of cute. There we go. And then, so what you can do is you can either choose to do an eye pin here or a basic wire wrap. I'm going to do a basic wire wrap and turn this into a pendant. So one way you can make a pendant is just to make a large wire wrap loop on top. So I'll do that first. Okay. Then I'm going to need my basic wire wrap tool of a chain nose plier. And when you do a paddle type of head pin, you're going to want to make that the front, right? Your head pin's going to have a front and a back if you do the paddle style. Otherwise, if you put it on edge like this, you're not going to be able to see it, and all your hammering was wasted. So you want to make sure that if you're turning this into a pendant, you want to make sure you can see the paddle from the front. Okay, so this one I'm going to make the loop large on top with the same wire that I made the head pin. And it's just going to be a pendant that you can slide on a chain. Okay, and I want my loop to be kind of big because I don't know what size, like if I want to put it on a cord or if you want to put it on a bigger chain, you're going to need to be able to get it over the end. So I'm going to do a larger wire wrap loop with my 6-step wrap and tap. I'm just going to go with the number 4 jaw, like this. We're going to do a basic wire wrap. This. Okay. I'm going to roll it closer because I don't want such a big space, and then I have to readjust my circle. So bring it back a little bit. There we go. Okay, and you're just going to adjust it so that this tail is 90 degrees to the pin that's going through the bead. Okay, and then we're just going to wrap this shut. If you want, you can hold it with your flat nose plier. I also like a nylon jaw plier at this point if you make really large wire wrap loops. But I don't know where mine is, so I'm just going to do it with my flat nose. There we go. Okay. Like that. Okay, and then you just trim. If you wanted to make it fancy, you could actually bring the wire around the bead and then end it at the end. I'll do that maybe for my next bead. So I'm just going to end mine here. Like this. And so I have a large loop here. You can string that on all kinds of things, whether it's ribbon, thick chain, leather cord. You put it on anything you want. Okay. And then a nice thing to do is to also hammer this loop just a little so you can give it a little bit of texture, and you can also work hard in it just a little bit. Now you want to hang the bead and stuff off of the block like this so you don't hit the bead by accident. Okay, and then we're just going to tap on the circle that we made. This is 16 gauge soft wire. It does like to be hammered a little bit so it can keep its shape. You don't have to hit it very much. If you wanted to hammer the second side, this round bench block does come with a plastic insert that you can switch out the metal block here with the plastic, and then you can hammer the second side, the other side of this loop, and then it would be textured on both sides, which is kind of cool. Okay, but here we go. So this is our head pin number 1 on our lampwork bead. Really simple, and then you can, you know, hang it on all kinds of things, just like a chain. Pretend this is a chain, so it can hang like that. That'd be kind of cute. Okay. Next up, let's see. Oh. So if you wanted to hang it on a cord, we have these really cute silk ribbons. We did a silk ribbon show just like a week or 2 ago. And we showed different projects, but this is a really nice thing that you can do with your lampwork beads, especially your handmade glass beads that tend to be a little bit larger. They're kind of nice by themselves, and then you can tie this around your neck and wear it like a cord. And it'll be a cute necklace. Okay. All right, let's see. Next head pin. If you want, you can do like a shape at the bottom of your wire. So instead of a paddle, we can make something different, like a different shape. Let's do a spiral. Okay, you always want to flush cut your wire. So when you flush cut your wire, that means putting the flat side of your blade against the working side of your wire like this and trimming, because if it's not flush, it'll be pointy and kind of pokey. We want to make it nice and flat to work with. Okay, so I'm going to do a little spiral for this head pin here. So you just grab the very tip of the wire with your round nose plier. Okay, you got to grip it pretty firmly so you don't slip like I just did. Okay, we're going to do it in small motions like this. So I turned most of a loop, and if you want to tighten up that little curl that we just made, we can just kind of give it a little squeeze with the chain nose or flat nose plier, your choice. Okay, so make it a little bit smaller. Stick the round nose plier back in there, and we're going to just roll forward. And I don't want to make a tight, like cinnamon bun type of spiral. I want to make a more open spiral, so I'm leaving some space here between the small loop and the curl. Okay, so I don't want it to be like tight. You can, that is a different look. That's not my thing. But you can make a cinnamon bun spiral if you want. Okay. So, just gonna put that in there, and we can make it as big as you want. I kind of like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to finish like a curve, and then I'm going to bend this up at an angle so that my spiral is sort of centered on the end of my wire and it's not rolling off to one side. Okay, so what you got to do is you get your you gotta open up a little bit of space here, right here, and we're just going to bend backwards with the chain nose plier like this. And then we can tighten that up again so that this opening here is closed. Just like that. Okay, and now of course you do want to hammer this. Okay, so we're gonna go in with, I think I like my baby chasing hammer. Frets number 401, my favorite. And it's the Maker's line, so it's even cheaper. So I really like it. Okay, is one of the hammers I always use at home. Okay. Again, when you hammer it with a metal hammer, you're flattening and adding texture to the wire, as well as work hardening your shape. Okay. It's very important to harden your shape because this is soft wire. Even though it's not like super soft, this has a little body to it for soft wire. You need to hammer it and work harden it so it doesn't get pulled out of shape too easily. Plus, it always looks nice when you have a little bit of texture on there. Okay, so I have my spiral head pin now, and I'm going to put a bead on there. We always like spacer beads or caps.
We do.
Yes.
A lot.
And we have lots of them here. Okay, let's see if I like that. Oh, I kind of like that. This is a plain, like a Krispy Kreme type of donut bead. And what shall I do? I'm going to do this one. There we go. Okay. With that, let me see. And then I'm going to put a bead cap on top again. Let's see if I like that. Okay, so I'm just making a step. And then I'm going to attach it this time because I want a little bit more movement, a little bit more dangling than just a loop on top like this. I want it to move a little bit more. So I'm going to wire wrap it this time to a closed ring. This is our stippled ring. It's 11 millimeter in diameter. It has a really nice weight to it, plus a cute texture, so it looks almost like you made it yourself, but you didn't have to. Okay, so I'm going to wire wrap my bead to that ring so it'll be like a bail, and you'll be able to see it dangle. Okay, and then you can take it on and off different chains or cords or whatever you want to string this on. Okay. Because I want this ring to be perpendicular to the plane of the spiral, I'm going to have to make sure that I do this wire wrap here in the same plane as my spiral. Okay, I'm going to do that right now. Again, basic wire wrap. You could do an eye pin at this point, but that's okay. I was going to do a basic wire wrap. And so this one, I don't want my loop to be quite so large, so I'm not going to use the wrap and tap. Although you can, if you wanted to use like the steps 1 or 2, I'm just going to use my basic round nose plier. Okay. And I'm going to go near the base of the round nose plier like this. We have our basic wire wrap video, instructional video on this channel, where you can see Jason doing this multiple times if you need a refresher on your basic wire wrap technique. Okay. So again, I want to move my loop a little bit closer to the top of the bead because I don't want a very long coily section. So I'm going to adjust it a bit before I start wrapping my loop shut. Okay. Like this. So as long as you make your loop the way you want, the size you want, the distance that you want from the top of the bead, you may need to do a little bit of adjusting, but you can make almost anything look really nice. Okay, I'm going to string on my ring here, and then I'm going to wrap this shut. And you see I have extra wire, so I'm going to maybe make a little coil or something to make this extra fancy. We shall see. Notice that I turn the wire after every half coil. It's because I like to see what I'm doing and where the wire is going. So I will turn the bead every time I go past the edge here, so I can start the next coil and see what I'm doing. That way they sit next to each other and they're nice and even, and they're like nicer than just like wrapping it without looking at it. Okay, that's a design tip for you. So I have a basic wire wrap loop here. And now I think I'm going to maybe bring the wire around and see if I can do a second spiral at the bottom just to make it fancier. Let's see if that works. Okay. think I gotta push this wire out of the way just a little. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna bring the wire around like so. Maybe I'll just bring it straight down like this. And if it's not looking the way you want, you can always cut it off because it's only wire. Okay, that looks kind of cool. Let me see. I think I need a little more room here. Okay, I'm gonna squeeze this just a little. Well, now that went way under there. That's okay. I squished my spiral, so I'm going to even it out a little bit. There we go. Okay, this would be a good thing to do on, say, like a bead that was shaped like a lentil that had a front and a back. When you wrap the wire around the back of the bead, it can keep it from flipping so much. It doesn't really make that much of a difference on a rounded bead like this, but that's okay. Okay, so now I'm going to just use the rest of the wire, and we're going to make another spiral so it looks kind of like a wave. And we'll see how that looks. I'm going to cut this down. Okay, and I'm going to roll a second spiral. Maybe this one will be a little bit bigger than the first one. Okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm not going to put this overlapping just yet. I'm going to hammer my wire a little bit, and then maybe I'll bring it so it overlaps just a little, and then I'll be done. And you can hang little fun things from the bottom of this as well, just to jazz it up just a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to hit it with my, remember to keep the bead off the block. And then I'm going to just curl it in a little bit closer so they overlap just a little. Okay. And then so here is my double spiral head pin that I just made up. So I'm making any kind right now. But this is how you can do a spiral type head pin with some wire. So this coiling in the back is good if you have a piece that has a front and a back, so like a flatter style. or like a fairy or a figure that has a front and a back and you don't want it to spin, it's good to bring the wire around the back of the bead to keep it from turning, and that way you always see the side that you want. Okay, so there we go. And that is with 16 gauge soft sterling wire. Okay, how am I on time, Jason? Do I have enough time for one more?
Yes, you are at 30 minutes. Right on the dot, 30 minutes. So you can pop in one more for 10 more minutes.
I don't know, I'll do one more. Let's see. What shall I do now?
You have...
Maybe I'm going to make a leaf at the bottom.
Yeah, leaf, triangle, heart.
Okay.
What other shape do you like? And you usually start with about a foot of wire, yeah?
Yeah, something easy to work with. So I made 2 pins with that 1 foot of wire.
Yep, right there.
Yeah, I mean any kind. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's see. I'll do a, what shall I do? I will do a leaf at the bottom, and then we're good. Okay. So I'm going to use the large wrap and tap here. Okay. Like this. And no, actually I'm going to go with a smaller wrap and tap. I'm going to make like 2 leaves. Let's see how this works. Okay, I'm going to do a smaller circle at the bottom. And I'm not starting it like a basic wire wrap because I kind of want just like a tear shape like this. Because I'm going to make a leaf. Okay. And so I'm just going to keep it like this and wrap that shut like this. And instead of cutting that, I'm going to hammer that out and make it into like a stem of some sort. Okay, so this is getting very creative with wire. I haven't really done this before. Okay. So we're going to flare that out. And this one I think I'm going to deliberately hit it more on one side than the other because I want it to curve. So I'm going to concentrate hitting it on this upper part of the wire and avoid hitting the under part of the wire here. And that way you'll see it to start to curve downward. And that's because I am spreading out the wire more on one edge of the wire, and that's what forces it to curve. Okay, you could curve it manually and then hit it and, you know, get pretty much the same effect, but this is a way that you can see how you can change the shape of the wire just by hitting it without any pliers. This will help you also diagnose any problems that you might be having hammering your wire. Like if you're saying, my goodness, all my wire curves to one side, that's an indication that you're hitting it primarily on that side of the wire. So if you want to try to make it straight, you have to concentrate on hitting the side that it is curving towards, the shorter side, okay? Which would be like the inside of your curve. But in this case, I want it to curve. So okay, there we go. So it's curving towards the teardrop. You can file off any sharp sections like this, because even though we like it organic, we don't like it that organic where you hurt yourself on it. Okay. And then I said I was going to turn this into a leaf, so I'm going to add a point here. You can use like your chain nose plier or your flat nose. Because a leaf is a little on the smaller side, I'm going to just get my chain nose plier in there and see if I can bend this into a point. Because this is 16 gauge wire and my loop is kind of small, it's a little bit hard. Like, hard to get a very sharp, like, bend in the wire. Because the wire is so thick for the size of the shape that I made, you're going to get a little bit more softer angles in your wire, which is okay. Okay. Then I'm going to just hammer that a little bit so it'll keep its shape. And I like to give it a little bit of a fatter edge that tapers to the points on both sides. Okay, and let's see. I think I'll do one more leaf and then I'll string the bead on. Okay, so let's do, how's about something slightly different in size? So we're just going to pull it around like this. Again. And then I want the wire to go upwards because I want my bead to kind of like sit up here. So I'm going to just pull the wire around like this and up. Okay. And we're going to tighten that up just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to turn this into a leaf as well by putting a point at the end. Like that. I'm going to hammer it just a little and then I'm going to string on my bead. I don't want to hammer the part that is coiled around the base. You only want to hammer the shape. So I'm keeping a lot of that off of the block. Okay, there we go. So I have my little shape here. And then you can adjust the angles and stuff with your fingers, like this. Now let's see how it looks with my bead on there. Okay, well I think that's kind of cute. So I'm going to just put a bead cap on top and we're going to wire wrap this to a bail. So a bail is like a ring, but it's like fancy and it's not round, just plain round. This one happens to be like our ribbon bail. It's kind of a teardrop shape with a loop at the bottom. I have to make sure that my 16 gauge wire will fit through there. Yes, it does. Okay, so I'm going to use this and then you can hang this part on any chain or ribbon that you want. It's a nice finish, just like a round ring is. Gives you a little bit more movement. And I think it's kind of a nicer finish. Okay. So we're going to string on our bead. Just like this. And then again, for this one, my loop runs like the ring itself. So we want to make this to sit just like that. So it runs perpendicular to this leaf here. I need to make my loop in the same plane as the bottom of my head pin. Okay. So I'm just going to do another basic wire wrap here. And again, I'm just going to make a smallish kind of loop because I have a larger bail here. I don't want my loop to be really big. There we go. So I have my loop, and I have to remember to attach my bail. But actually I don't, because this bail, the loop, you can open and close it. Not all of them can do that. So you just got to make sure that if yours does not open, you want to make sure you attach your bead. For me, I'm just going to make sure that that loop is nicely closed. And then I'm going to attach my bead. Like this. And we're going to wrap this shut. And sometimes if you have, like, your wire wrap section is very long and you've got a lot of coils on there and you want to bulk up your section that's between the loop and the bead, you can actually take the wire, if you have any extra, and once you hit the top of the bead, you can go back up towards the loop to kind of bulk up that section that is wrapped. That way it looks more proportional. That way you don't have this long skinny neck with a big bead and a loop at the top. You can sort of even that out by making a second layer of coils over your wire wrap section there. Okay, I don't have that much room, so I'm not going to do that. That was just a suggestion. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, you can also, if you want to make something that's sort of like a bead cap for your bead here, you can just wrap your wire in a spiral on top and then just cut close. Well, let's see if I can do anything else fun with this. I think I'll bring the wire down like that. Because there was a little bit of space there. And then I'm going to do a spiral, and then I think I'm done. Am I running out of time? Okay, let me just make a spiral here, and then I will finish up. See, so it's very nice to have a longer piece than you think you'll need of wire. That way you can be more creative with the extra. Okay, it's never good to be really stingy with the wire at this point, because that just makes it harder to manipulate and to make shapes. So if you have extra, it'll be easy. Just get that in there. Let's hit it a little. And sometimes I wish I had an anvil, which we do, but I don't have it with me. So then when you get into like tight areas like this that are hard to hammer, you can put it on the edges of your anvil. But I'm just going to bring that out at an angle and push it back flat after I'm done. Let's pull that out so I can hit farther up here. Then you can squish it flat again. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to move this. I'm going to tweak my shape just a little. Here we go. All right. So here is a super fancy head pin on a Calvin bead. I don't even know if we can call this a head pin anymore. Wire sculpture on the beautiful Calvin Orr beads. Okay, I'm going to go back to the front and say bye to everybody. Okay. All right, so there we go. I hope you enjoyed my little demonstration for these past 45 minutes or so. So I hope this inspired you to do something with your lampwork beads if you are hoarding them, as everybody who loves beads probably does. I have a ridiculous hoard of Calvin Orr beads. And you can possibly add to it sooner than you think on our Facebook page. So check it out, because I know we're going to be showing some. But yeah, I hope you find this inspiring, whether you want to do just a simple headpin pendant like this with a paddle on the bottom, or if you want to do like a little spiral action like this, or if you want to get really wild and do all kinds of things with your wire. This I used about a foot of wire to do this with. There we go. So please, I hope you found this to be a very inspiring exercise with wire. Again, I used only 16 gauge soft sterling, and I had a lot of fun today, so I hope you had some fun watching me. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, please subscribe to our channel and like the video, please, because it's always so nice to see those thumbs ups. And also hit that bell next to the subscribe button so you'll get notifications every time we go live, because we like to go live and we like to do stuff on camera just so we can share all our ideas with you. So until next time, please live, love, and create, and please play with some wire because it is super fun. Okay, until next time, we'll see you. Aloha. Bye.